Hi everyone, it was about time I show you the Cataclysm edition of our vendor run guide, where all you have to do is follow the guide and go from one NPC vendor to another, buy their stuff to resell it later at the auction house for a very nice profit margin. This is not a new concept. A lot of people have been doing this for years, but most people tend to stick to the popular areas such as Booty Bay or the major cities, and they would have to either memorize the route that they take or use pen and paper. But our vendor run guide takes it to the next level with a guide that will take you from one vendor to another without getting lost along the way, and tell you exactly which NPC to find and which items to buy. The vendor run guide is better than ever because since my last videos there were several key changes. One is the Cataclysm gold inflation mean that the same items will sell for a lot more than before. And second, we can also use flying mounts in Azeroth, which will drastically reduce your traveling time, which will also increase your gold per hour. And last, our new target button feature comes in extremely handy to find the NPC in crowded NPC areas such as Booty Bay or Shatra City. As far as I know, there are no other guide like this. Even though this is a small and simple guide, it's actually a very powerful way to make gold, because here are the pros. You can make 1200 gold per hour or more. Now that is actually a very good rate already for level 85, but here are the best part about it. There's absolutely no gameplay skill required. There's no competing with other players for farming location, there's no PVP, there's no killing monsters. If you know how to talk to a vendor and buy an item, then you can make over 1200 gold per hour. And you don't need any auction house skill required. You don't have to have any knowledge about the market to make a profit. Our goal here to sell most recipes around 20 to 40 gold or more, and I will show you at the end of this video just how easy it is to sell them. You don't need to have any profession either to make gold using this technique. A lot of gold making techniques out there require you to have a higher level profession to work. Well, not this one. Lowbies as low as level 40 can do it. Can you imagine your first level 40 character earning like up to 1000 gold per hour? That's a lot of gold for a low level character. There is some downside to this technique though. You will need a lot of backspace for this, as you're going to get swamped with all these recipes and they don't stack because they're all different. So it can be a pain to manage all these items. You can counter the bag issue by simply transferring the items to your alt or simply leaving it in your mailbox. And finally, just like any other gold making techniques, if everyone on the server does it, it can be less effective. So this will depend on your server as well. But since you can only get this guide from us, I can safely say that it is still a well kept secret. The vendor run guide is a part of our dailies guide and you should be able to find it inside the dailies tab. It is listed around the bottom under vendor run, and there are 3 different guides, which are the calendar run, the Eastern Kingdom run and Outland. Blizzard got lazy and the vendor NPC in Nordrun don't really sell anything worth auctioning, except for one pet NPC in Dalaran. Before you begin, I do recommend you have as many bag spaces as you can. I would recommend at least 60 bag spaces. You will come across a lot of mailbox and you can also mail it to your alt later. If you don't have any alt, then I recommend you create one first before you begin, because even if your alt doesn't have any bag space, it will still exist in the mailbox and you can simply get your alt to return your mail when you do have space on your main. And without further ado, we will begin. As you can see, I'm in Orgrimmar and we'll begin with the Outland vendor guide for this example. I will start the timer and we will see how long it will take me to complete the entire round for Outland. You can see in this video, Dugi guide's working for me in the top right corner and the waypoint arrow tells me exactly where to go. The model viewer shows me the NPC that I need to find, and the target button will help me target the NPC and mark them for me. Each step in the guide will tell me which items I need to buy, and you will need to take the step once you finish. The main reason that this guide works is because of the limited supply items. These items can only be purchased once every 12 hours, so you can't simply stock up on massive amounts. You will have to do the vendor run again every time you want to stock up. Most of the recipe costs a mere silvers and copper, some of the most expensive ones only costing a couple of gold. Because of the gold inflation and Cataclysm, you will be able to sell these recipes for around 20 to 40 golds on average. Some limited supply recipe can be sold for up to 100 gold, which is pretty amazing. If you have the Auctionator add-on installed, your tooltip should display the auction house value of the item that you have just purchased. In this example, I can sell this recipe that I've just bought for 1 gold for a huge profit margin of 22 or 26 gold. You may think that this is silly. Why would anyone buy a recipe for 20 gold when it could have cost them a few silver to buy? My theory is that most players are not stupid. They know they can get it at the vendor price if they just make the trip, but a lot of these players are just too lazy to get it themselves, or it's not worth their time. So essentially what they're paying for is the delivery fee for you to get it for them, because all that traveling for them is not worth their time, and they much rather pay the 20 gold delivery fee. But since we're maximizing our trip by picking up a lot of other stuff along the way, we're really making our trip worthwhile, and that's why we're making a lot of gold from doing this. And it's not just limited supply recipes that we're buying, we are also purchasing other things like profession materials, potions, and companions, which sells really well. Alright, I've just completed the entire run for Outland, and as you can see, the total time it took me is about 38 minutes, and the total cost for me to buy all these items was about 200 gold. And now let me show you what you have to do to sell these items easily by spending only a few minutes per day. And I'll prove to you that anyone can do this. You don't need any knowledge of the auction house at all. First, I do recommend you have at least 2 additional add-ons installed. Auctionator for the auction house add-on and Postal for the mailbox add-on. There are other auction house add-ons that you can use like Auctioneer. However, I highly recommend Auctionator, which is the easiest and simplest to use for beginners. In this video, I won't go into too much detail on Auctionator add-on itself because I think that should be covered in the new video on its own. So if you use the Auctionator add-on, click on the More tab after you open the auction house window and click Full Scan and select Start Scanning. And this should only take you a few seconds and should provide you with the latest database of your server auction. Once you're done your scan, now we can begin selling. Now click on the Sell tab and just drag and drop your items into the sell area. An auctioneer will immediately show you the recommended sell price and an easy way to make a quick sell to just undercut your current competitor. If you don't have any competitor, you can click on the History tab of Auctionator and set your price based on the history. Otherwise, you can pretty much set it to whatever you think you can get away with, like 50 to 100 gold. If you have multiple items of the same thing, like you have 2 of the same recipe, try not to list them both at the same time. Wait until the first one is sold before you list the next one. And that's pretty much our strategy for selling the items in the auction house. So it's pretty simple. I just want to prove it that anyone can do this. You don't need any knowledge of the auction house, or Auctioneer will pretty much do everything for you. It will tell you the history of the items that you're selling and give you the recommended price that you can sell it at. It can get a bit confusing to have so many recipes in your bag because they all have the same icon. So what I recommend you do is that you set aside an empty bag where you can store item where you already have listing in the auction house. For my example, all the items that I don't want to list yet, I put it on the bottom right corner of my bag. Notice I left the timer on in this video, and so you can tell how long exactly it take me to sell all these items. And I spent about 15 minutes in the auction house listing these items manually. And it will probably take you a week to sell every single items that you have, but you wouldn't be spending any more than 2 to 5 minutes per day in the auction house to maintain it. Well, that was day 1 of the vendor run and putting stuff on the auction house for the first time. And this is day 2 and I'm just checking my mailbox. I have a lot of items that I've sold already, but I'm not going to open them just yet because I want to open them all at the same time so we get like an easy total for you to see. And what I'm going to do right now is top up my listing in the auction house with items that I didn't put up yesterday because I didn't want to flood the auction house of the same items. Always remember to scan the auction house daily. The more you scan, the more accurate your auctionator database, which is very important. So this will only take me a couple of minutes again to sell my items. If you're going to do the vendor run daily, you're going to have a lot more items per day to sell. You will likely spend about 15 to 20 minutes per day just organizing and selling the items in the auction house. Our dailies and events guide comes with free vendor run guides that covers the Outland, Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdom. If you do them all on the same day, you're going to have a lot more variety of items to sell, and you will make a lot more gold per day in the auction house. In this example, I only did the Outland guide and it took me about 40 minutes because I just want to prove to you just how much gold you will make with 1 hour of playtime. Alright, after spending about a couple of minutes yesterday relisting some of my auction, this is day 3 of me trying to sell my items. A lot of my stuff has already been sold, but I left them in the mailbox so we can collect them all in one go, and I will show you the result very soon. I thought I'd show you how to quickly use this check for undercut feature with Auctionator. For this video, I really want to sell all my items as fast as I can, so I'm going to undercut all my competitors so my items will sell first. And Auctionator have an easy way to check who's undercutting your listing just by going to the More tab and click on the check for undercut in the bottom left corner. As you can see, it's checking all my listing on the left hand side there, and the ones with the red cross means that someone else is selling the same items cheaper than I am. So I'm going to cancel my listing and relist them cheaper than them. This is only recommended if you want to sell your item quickly, but the best way to the most profit is to sell it at the average market price. But because the nature of the vendor run guide, you're going to be dealing with so many different type of items, so many spell recipe, and they don't stack, they take up a lot of bag space. You really want to get rid of them as fast as you can. These vendor recipe, they have an artificial value. Remember that they only cost you silvers to a couple of gold, so it's not likely that you're going to make a loss by keep undercutting people. Selling the items earlier means less time spent on the auction house. You don't have to go back to your mailbox, pick them up and relist them on the auction. Alright, today is day 4 and we're finally going to collect all the gold from the mailbox from the items that we sold. For this video, I've only sold items that I've collected from the vendor run guide. This is the part where you need the postal add-on, which will open all your mail automatically. You can see in the chat log the amount of gold I'm collecting per item. A lot of the recipes tend to go for around 25 to 50 gold, and I also sold companion items for over 100 gold. Companions or vanity pets always sell really well. There's actually a vendor in Netherstorm that sell about 6 different companions, and you can purchase as much as you want and stock up heaps on them, but make sure you don't have many competitors selling the same vanity pets, or else you may be stuck with them for a long time. Alright, we're getting close to the end, and the total gold that I collected today is 1654 gold. And when I calculate the difference between my final gold and my starting gold, I made about 1260 gold per hour. It took me 38 minutes to do the vendor run, and then about 15 minutes to do the first set of auction, and then another couple of minutes per day to relist some of the items. So the whole process took me about an hour, and I made over 1200 gold. And as you can see in my backpack, I still have about 50 items left over to sell. And I should have kept recording this video because the next few days I made another 600 gold selling the rest of the items. My 1200 gold per hour estimate is quite conservative. I think you can make a lot more once you learn which item will sell at higher prices and if you can manage your time better. Well, I hope this video shows you how powerful this guide can be and how easy it is for anyone to make gold by using this guide. This technique will work for anyone and on any server. Not many people make gold this way because doing the vendor run is extremely confusing without a guide. The vendor run guide is available with our dailies and events guide, so get it and start using it today. Alright, this is Dugi, good luck and thank you for watching.